Hey guys, it's your favorite gold miner, prospector, and geologist, Jeff Williams. This is Victor. Now, if you don't know where Victor's at, it's in Colorado, and it's right outside of Cripple Creek. They pulled out millions of ounces of gold. And I'm gonna take you out, and I'm gonna show you what I know about this town, and if you're lucky, we'll get some gold out of them hills. In 1891, two prospectors named Winfield Scott Stratton and a few others discovered a significant gold vein in the area known as Battle Mountain. However, it was Lawrence and Frank Woods, two other prospectors, who are credited with the founding of the town of Victor. They staked their claims in 1891 and quickly realized that there was a need for a community to serve the growing number of miners and prospectors arriving in the area. The Woods brothers named the new settlement Victor after Victor Adams, one of the first miners in the area that had passed away earlier. By 1893, the town was officially platted, and Victor quickly became a thriving mining community due to its proximity to the rich gold deposits in the surrounding hills. By 1894, the town had thousands of residents, including businesses, saloons, schools, churches, and brothels. The town also saw the construction of several large mines, including the Independence, the Portland, the Strong Mine, and of course the infamous Ajax Mine. During its peak in the late 1890s and early 1900s, Victor was one of the most productive gold mining towns in the country, with a population of over 10,000 people. However, as the rich veins of gold were mined out, new discoveries dwindled. The town's fortunes began to decline. In addition to the depletion of easily accessible gold, fires also ravaged the town. A significant fire in 1899 destroyed much of Victor's business district, but the town quickly rebuilt, showing the resilience of its residents. Then another fire in 1903 caused even further damage, but again, town was rebuilt. Now today, Victor, Colorado is much quieter than it was during its gold rush heyday, but it still retains much of its historic charm. The town has preserved many of its original buildings and a lot of the headframes, which now serve as reminders of its rich mining heritage. That's how you get around here in Victor. Everybody's got one. How come I don't got one? The Independence Mine was discovered by Winfield Scott Stratton on July 4th, 1891. He would become the district's first multi-millionaire. In 1900, Stratton sold the Independence Mine to the Venture Corporation of London for $10 million. Venture Corporation sued Stratton, claiming that the mine had been salted, but his family defeated the lawsuit and proved that the mine was valuable. In 1928, the mine's gold production stood at over $28 million. The mine's amazing riches were matched only by its incredible misfortunes. In 1904, during a labor unrest, 15 replacement miners plunged to their death in a sabotaged cage. Now, when Stratton first found this claim, the outcroppings here were producing 19 ounces per ton of gold. That's mind-blowing. And so they sunk a shaft right on top of the vein. The vein has a northwest-southeast strike to it. And we're right next to Battle Mountain. And all of this material we're standing on is brecciated granite. It's not solid. So this is the perfect environment for gold deposition, because breccia creates all the little fractures and fissures for the fluids to rush in. They pulled out over 1,350,000 ounces of gold. This has its own complex here. In fact, there's a mill right behind it where they process the ore on site. And I love the way they preserve this thing. If you look closely, you can see it's all been bolted together, and it's sitting on I-beams above the shaft so it doesn't list. They did a wonderful job restoring this thing. But this is just one out of hundreds of mines here in the Victor area. They're all over the hill, and these things go down, some of them 3,000 feet. And all the gold is found in these funnel-like dikes that have a northwest-southeast strike to it. And that's what's cutting through all the breccia. And that's where they were finding all the gold. You could see a lot of the gang material in all these mine dumps around here. It's amazing. And the gold here is in a telluride, which means it has tellurium in it. So when you look at it, it looks like a sulfide. When the miners first saw it, they didn't think they had gold at all. They said, what's this crazy looking stuff that's shiny like pyrite? It was a telluride. They hadn't seen tellurides before. The way that you can make it look like gold is you heat it up, just like roasting a sulfide. And then the gold actually comes through. In fact, they're still mining today. Newmont has taken the entire top of the mountain, and they're working into the porphyry. And that shaft right there goes down over 1,500 feet. It's a monster! And if you look at the shiv wheels on top, see how wide they are? That's because they're using flat cable. They're not using wire rope for this. No, because flat cable's superior, just like they do in Virginia City. This thing is a monster, and the mill behind it's twice the size. And there's the mill across the way. This thing was a monster, and it all supported this mine. The Independence Mill was not just a typical milling operation, it was the site of constant innovation and adaptation. As the ore from the mine became harder to process, new technologies and methods were introduced to increase efficiency and recover more gold from low-grade ore. One such innovation was the introduction of cyanidation, a chemical process that used cyanide to dissolve and extract gold from crushed ore. The method proved to be highly effective and was quickly adopted, significantly increasing the mill's productivity. However, the mill faced numerous challenges. The harsh winters in the mountains brought freezing temperatures and heavy snow, which could halt operations and isolate the mill from the rest of Victor. In addition, the mill was constantly threatened by fires, common hazard of mining towns were timbered structures and combustible materials that were always prevalent. The men who worked at the mill faced daily dangers from machinery accidents and exposures to toxic chemicals. The Independence Mill played a crucial role in the economic boom that transformed Victor from a small mining camp into a thriving town. The wealth generated by the gold extracted and processed at the mill funded the construction of homes, businesses, and infrastructure in Victor and the surrounding area. The town prospered and the population grew as more miners, merchants, and families flocked to the area in search of opportunity. But as with many mining towns, Victor's fortunes were tied to the productivity of its mines. And as the rich veins of gold were gradually exhausted, the output from the Independence mine and mill began to decline. So by early 20th century, the boom was fading. Now the mill, once a symbol of prosperity, now stood as a reminder of a golden era that was slowly slipping away. And here's the stopes that I was telling you about. See that? That's all the vein material of the calaverite that they were pulling out inside of these fissures. Look at that. And see all the lines they have for compressed air and water to run down into this huge behemoth? It's huge. Here's a beautiful overhead shot looking straight down into the veins that they removed. The open stopes at daylight. You can see some of them actually go down far enough to you can get into the workings where it crosses underneath the headframe and you got a sinkhole forming. And there's all the open stopes right there. Goes all the way up there to those mine dumps. That's why there's a big fence around here, because they don't want you falling into these stopes that go down 1,500 feet. And you can see where the collars are collapsing here around the shaft because of all the snow and rain they get up here. Ooh, I bet you that would be fun to explore, huh? Look at that. And there's the flat cable they used to hoist up all the ore. Oh, you can see where the shaft is collapsing right here. Wow, look at that. Nice. You can see where it's all collapsing in. Ooh, I bet you that's a fun ride in there. There's the main shaft, and look how the ground is slowly sinking in right here. This whole thing is collapsing because the collars are starting to collapse. And there's a deer. I hope this is stable ground. Yeah, you can see where this is all collapsing in. Look at that. They did a heck of a job reinforcing this thing. Jeez, look at that. Wow, just look at the size of that head frame. After nearly 125 years of standing tall, the historic head frame of Winfield Scott Stratton's Independence Mine was laid down on the ground in the fall of 2017 for strengthening and restoration. This particular head frame has two sets of supportive legs on the outside, and the reason why is because it's got a pony lift, which you can see the shiv wheel for it right here, to lift the cage for the men up and down the shaft. In September of 1900, the Independence Mine was the first mine in the district to introduce a new stripping order requiring all underground workers to undress in one room of a change house and walk into another room in the nude while a guard was watching them. This was to take place at the start and the end of each shift. The new rule was implemented to prevent high grading or the theft of gold ore by the mine workers. 500 miners met at Victor's Armory Hall, and they decided that while they would help stop ore thieves, they refused to work under the stripping rule. Compromise was reached, which allowed the miners to strip to their undergarments, but the miners were still unhappy with this. And after the new practice was in place for about a month, Pinkertons were brought in to search the miners at the end of the shift, but no ore was ever found, and the miners who were upset about this walked out. 3 days later, the Independence Mine manager A.H. Shipman met with the executive board
and ultimately agreed to abolish the Pinkerton guard system and to appoint a guard for the change rooms from candidates from the union proposed. So, under the new agreement, any miner suspected of high grading could be searched by a fellow union member in the presence of a watchman. Now, Shipman also announced that he was going to support membership of the miners in the return for union help in stopping the practice of high grading.
This is a side dumper. No, it wasn't used out in the mine. It was up here on the surface operations. But what's unique about this side dumper is that it had electric motor inside driving these trucks here. See that? You can see where the gear is here, and the motor sat here. See that? And here's the release lever to open this side gate up. And a lot of these were automatic dumpers because there'd be a mechanism on the outside to open the gate. But they all had electric motors on there. In fact, I think I'm gonna do that with my mine car. Now, Victor is right around the corner of Battle Mountain from Cripple Creek. And if you didn't know it was here, you'd never come over here. And look at this. There are buildings everywhere out here. I'm talking everywhere. And look at the size of these mine dumps. That's amazing. And there's head frames everywhere. These are fixer-uppers. You could move into this thing at any time. Oh, and look, they had cold storage down below in the basement. All it needs is a little paint, and it's good to go. And right there's your cold storage. Everyone had one. And they had fireplace in here. Actually, they had a potbelly stove. This is pretty cool. You could just move right in. Look at that. Nice. Wow, you imagine living here in the wintertime? You'd freeze your little booty off. This is incredible. And you can see where they had the potbelly stove right there. Look at that, and there's the old bed. And there's the bedrooms back in here. That's pretty cool. Floor's falling in, but that's okay. A few nails and some wood, it'll be good as new. Looks like burros have been sleeping in here. And look at the wallpaper. Isn't that cool? You gotta have wallpaper. Come on, brother. See how the snow is just killing these old buildings, killing them. There's buildings like this all over this mountain. It's incredible. Look at the view. You can see Victor from up here. Look at that view of Victor. All right, we're gonna head on up on the hill because there's more mines to see. I mean, there's just oodles of head frames everywhere and gold ore. And see how they used old dynamite boxes to actually reinforce the wood to keep the elements out, and then they would put all of this tar paper over the top of that to keep the frigid winters out. Because the winters here are brutal. You freeze to death out here. Wow, you can see all the old cribbing right here. And this is where the rail cars used to come and pick up all the ore from the mine. Oh, and there's the red fox. There he goes. And then, of course, this is the waste pile here. They would bring it out here on this trestle and then dump it. This thing is amazing. And that head frame looks brand new. Look at that. Wow, you imagine the stories this thing could tell? Look at all these chutes. And they're numbered too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I wonder what's up there. See that, where it's all blocked off? Oh, that would be cool. Be able to get up in there. I don't think nobody's gonna get up in there. You know a mine is big and producing good when it has chutes this big to offload into rail cars. I wanna see what's up there. And there's the Portland mine. That was the largest gold producer in the district. It was found by 2 Irishmen. Aye, that's me gold. James Burns and James Doyle. And that shaft goes down 3,500 feet. And it's rumored to connect all of these mines together. Ooh, you imagine exploring that one? And that bunker up there produced 3 million ounces of gold. This is telluride gold, okay? And look at the size of those mine dumps. That's just, oh, it's massive! And this one was connected to the infamous Ajax mine via train tunnel. They were hauling out so much ore, they needed full-size rail cars to get it out. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Jeff, can you get up there? Yeah, I'm gonna get up there, so just keep them pants on. But I'm not gonna do anything until you smash that like button. Smash it hard!
Now, the Portland mine was discovered in 1892 by James F. Burns and James Doyle. They were quickly involved in numerous claims and lawsuits, which were settled by their corporation as the Portland Gold Mining Company and the appointment of their chief rival, Winfield S. Stratton, as president. With his backing, they were able to buy out all the other rival claims in the area. The entire area was prosperous until the early 1920s. But unfortunately, bankruptcy forced the Portland's takeover by United Gold Mines Company in 1934. All the United property was consolidated into the Golden Cycle Corporation holdings in 1970. Here you can see the ore sortation house for the Portland number 1 shaft. Now the interesting thing about these sortation houses is that they have multiple levels. And keep in mind, there were people in there all the time hand sorting the ore out. So you would have 3 sizes of ore. You have very fine, then you have medium, and then you have coarse. The coarse was usually discarded through that chute you see on the left. They would have mine cars that rode back and forth, dumping it from the upper levels to the lower levels.
Wow, look at this trestle. How'd you like to run mine cars out here? Woo, especially in wintertime, you freeze your little booty off. And it all came from him. Look how big this thing is. And it still has the knob and tube on it, all the wiring. And they got some kind of Christmas ornaments up there too. And then it would come out here, sit in these chutes, and from there, it'd go straight across down into this ore bin for sortation, and then from here it dump out into the mine waste rock piles or into the ore bins and then be hauled away from below. Ooh, I can't even imagine in wintertime moving the mine cars out there. That's some serious gauge track out there too. And I'm sure there was more that went across at one time. That is incredible.
Now if you look closely, you can see 2 sizes of track. The larger 90-pound rail and then the smaller 30-pound rail on the right. The reason why they did that is because they had a pair of large side dumpers that would go in there to feed those hoppers. And you can see the smaller set of track on the right, which was used as an auxiliary dumper. Now as we swing around to the side of the building, you'll get a better idea of what the sortation screens look like. You have 3 different sizes. And like I said, you have coarse, medium, and fines. Now most of the gold ore was in the fines because it was in brecciated ore. And when you break brecciated ore, it always breaks against the fracture planes. So that's why you have multiple screens, and they had hoppers on both sides. So you would have so all this finer ore would collect in the larger hoppers that would set to the bottom. Now keep in mind, all of this ore had to be hand sorted. So you had an army of people in here actually going through all of the ore to hand sort what was good and what was bad. Here's a better shot of, you can see where the mine cars can come out and they can rotate left or right on those plates, and they can go out to the side and dump it into the mine dumps. And down below here you can see where the flat cars would come in and they would load up on the finer grain material so they could take it down to the Independence Mill. And of course, the stuff that went into the hopper here on the side was medium grade, and that would be taken to another crushing circuit to where it could be processed later.
Here's one of the many side secret little entrances that takes you deep into the mountain, but it looks like somebody beat me to it. How am I supposed to get into that? Huh? There's not even a way in. It's all welded. I don't even think that was BLM that did this. I think the owners of the mine did this because they know people like me are going to go in there and explore the 70 miles of tunnel that they have inside of this mine. Oh, you imagine venturing in there? I mean, it doesn't. Oh, wait, no, it is BLM. And you can see where BLM put their survey marker here. Ooh, what do you think's in there, huh? It goes in a little ways. That's pretty cool. That'd be a fun explore right there.
Now the story of Victor wouldn't be complete without the fabulously rich vug of gold from the Crescent mine. Now, miners discovered the famous Crescent Vug by accident on November 25th, 1914. While they were following large ore chutes on the 12th level, miners broke into the large chamber, or vug, which was the shape of a pear. It was approximately 12 meters tall, 7 meters long, and 4 meters wide. The walls were lined with very delicate, sparkling crystals of gold tellurides. However, a lot of them had fallen off because they were disturbed by the nearby blasting. The ore minerals in the vug were mostly the gold telluride sylvanite and calaverite. Sylvanite is comprised of gold, silver, and tellurium, while calaverite contains only gold and tellurium. The tellurides within the Crescent Vug occurred as crystals, varying in length from 1 millimeter to 3 millimeters. On some crystals of calaverite, pure gold was found, suggesting chemical alteration. These ore minerals penetrated beyond the surface of the Vug into the surrounding wall rock to a depth of 1.5 meters. The gold ore from the Vug was so valuable that the owners took measures to prevent theft or high grading. So they ordered a storehouse built underground on the same level as the Vug in an older drift and secured it with steel doors. Bags of gold ore were stacked by hand and securely locked inside of this new building. One miner described it as having stacked between 80 to 100 tons of incredibly rich ore at the time of his visit, and from all indications, they will continue stacking this ore until the Vug is completely empty. There were two main grades of ore for the Crescent Vug. The first grade included ore worth over $5,000 per ton at $20 an ounce, and the second grade was $1,000 to $1,500 per ton at $20 an ounce. The higher grade ore had 250 plus ounces of gold per ton, while the second grade of ore had 75 plus ounces of gold per ton. Based on the 1914 prices of $20 an ounce, that comes out to $120 million worth of gold in one Vug. Over 60,000 ounces of gold was recovered from one single Vug. This is an actual photo of the men pulling out high-grade sacks of gold ore from the Crescent Bug. They recovered over 180 bags of almost pure gold telluride. The second shot is the Crescent mine itself, and the third shot, it's hard to see, but that is the actual gold coming out of the Crescent Vug.
Now, what's really important about this mine that I wanted to show you is you don't hear a lot about this, but there's a scary thing back in the 1800s called overwinding. And even in today's mines, it's spooky. And what happens is you're riding the cage up, the guy who's operating the double drum hoist back there, he's drinking or falling asleep at the wheel. This thing overwinds and goes all the way to the top. Many men have been killed that way. So what do? They put these bell clamps on here. It goes up. When it gets too far up to the top, it shears, it locks, and it holds this in place while the cable keeps going. And you can see them right there. See those two? Those are referred to as the humble detaching bolts. They didn't always work that way. And like I said, overwinding was a big deal back in the 1800s. And many a man lost their lives either because they were pulled all the way to the top to the shiv wheels and then ground into dust, or the cables sheared and they dropped all the way down the shaft. These timber dogs here are supposed to prevent that. They're supposed to lock into the guides, but that didn't always work. So many men have lost their lives because of overwinding. I don't see anybody talking about it, and it was a real problem back in the heyday and even today. So I just wanted you to get a look at that because that's a good example.
Now, if you're going to be going to Victor, you have to stop by a small area past the mine that I just showed you called Rita the Rock Planter. It was created by artist Thomas Dambo, and Rita is a towering troll figure crafted entirely from recycled wood. But she's not just any troll. Nope, she's kneeling on the ground and she's carefully tending to the earth. Inspired by a historic mining landscape, Rita kneels attentively, patching up the ground where miners from the 1800s have carelessly left mine holes behind. So if you're going to be headed over to the Victor area, I would highly recommend stopping by and seeing this very interesting looking piece of artwork.
Now I know what you're saying, Jeff, are there any active gold mines in the Victor Cripple Creek area? Yes, there is. And there it is right there. That's one of 5 pits. It's a monster. It's owned by Newmont Mining. Now don't forget, at the end of every month, we give away a Gold Monster 1000 metal detector, bags and bags of pay dirt from our drift mine that are just loaded with gold. And to make things interesting, we're giving away this as well. This is one of the old original carbide lamps. All you have to do is look for the little icon at the end of the video that looks something like that. Click on it, make a $10 pledge, and you're in like Flynn. And if you want to see more exploration videos of these old ghost towns, go ahead and watch that video right there. And I'll see you on the next video.